A man wakes up and finds his hands disappearing, scaring him so much that he jumps up immediately. And then he sees himself lying on the bed, which shocks him again, throwing him into confusion and fear. Suddenly, he sees a woman in the reflection of the glass, and this time, he nearly loses his soul from fright. He hurriedly shouts, "Nurse!" But the woman, annoyed by his noise, snaps her fingers, instantly sealing his mouth shut. The woman's name is Ju Lian, a messenger from hell who comes from the underworld specifically to help those who want to end their lives by using various means to make them give up the idea of death. And she has a rival, which is that man who, the moment he appears, the entire comment barrage on the screen calls husband. The man's name is Park Chung-ki, who is responsible for ferrying the souls of the dead, but he is not our male lead. Our male lead is Choi Jun-ho, the man in the hospital just now. The reason Jun-ho's soul leaves his body has to start with a job interview during the day. Seeing the interviewer praise him, he felt certain he would pass this interview. The moment he walked out of the company, he immediately called his mother to share the good news, saying he would definitely get hired this time. His mother, who runs a noodle shop, was so happy that she decided to let all the customers in the shop eat for free. Suddenly, he saw the company's name, Juo Corporation, and in the instant he turned his head, he remembered the name of the person who had interviewed alongside him, and the coffee in his hand immediately lost its taste. Only then did he realize that the person who had competed for the interview with him was the boss's daughter. At that moment, he received a text message on his phone, and upon opening it, it was the interview result from Juo Corporation. Obviously, he had failed the interview, which made him furious because he had already interviewed at many companies, all ending in failure. At night, he went drinking with a friend, and suddenly he received a call from his mother. Without hesitation, he picked up the phone and turned to leave, going alone to the overpass. At that moment, his mother called again, but he still did not pick up. Thinking of how happy his mother was during the day, and he could not bear to tell her that he had not passed the interview. The anxiety of unemployment filled him with negative emotions about life. Suddenly, he saw a homeless old man, looking lifeless, walking toward the edge of the overpass. He immediately sensed something was wrong and wanted to go forward to save him, but he was afraid of getting himself involved, so he turned around to leave. Just as the old man was about to end his life, a pair of hands pulled him down, and that person was Jun-ho, who had just left. His kindness made him choose to return, but the old man was still determined to die. As the two of them struggled, a voice came through. It was the Hell Messenger, Jun-ho, and his mission this time was this old man. After being kicked away, Jun-ho was very annoyed, and as the two argued, the old man took the opportunity to climb over the railing. Seeing this, Jun-ho hurriedly rushed forward to stop the old man, but accidentally both of them fell down. Ju Lian saw this and felt it was troublesome, so she simply jumped into the river. In the river, Jun-ho saw a woman swimming toward him, and when Jun-ho woke up again, he found himself still alive, which made him very happy. But the next second, he realized his soul had left his body. Ju Lian told him he was not dead yet, but it would take 3 years before he could wake up, and because of her work mistake, there was no choice but to give him back his body for now. Then she took him to the underworld's direct company, Zuma Deng. Looking at the magnificent decorations, it was hard to imagine having such a life after death, and the purpose of taking him there was to ask the Jade Emperor how to judge him. Suddenly, a bottle of Shuang Wai Wai, a drink, was handed to his mouth, and he quickly said, "Thank you." The Jade Emperor was instantly dumbfounded, wondering how there was someone in Zuma Deng who did not recognize him. Jun-ho asked if the Jade Emperor had long legs and whether he used sulfur. With the warmth of fire at his back, the Jade Emperor told him not to speak and then walked toward the steps. With a shake of his body, he returned to his true form, and Jun-ho looked on in disbelief, as this appearance was simply a symbol of majesty and solemnity. Jun-ho was so scared that he even spit out his milk. The Jade Emperor, knowing that Jun-ho had a kind heart and that it was due to the mistake of the underworld messenger that he had fallen into a coma for 3 years, gave him 2 choices. The first was to remain in a coma and wake up after 3 years, and the second was to work at Zuma Deng Company for 3 months, so that he could wake up in 6 months, and it would also change his future destiny. The Jade Emperor thought to himself that Jun-ho would surely not refuse such a good opportunity. Jun-ho felt that working here would be worse than death, and thought it would be better to just enjoy these 3 years peacefully. Having no choice, the Jade Emperor had to force his soul back into his body. In the mortal world, Jun-ho felt his mother's grief as he lay unconscious on the hospital bed, and he screamed out desperately for help, but no one could hear him. The Jade Emperor then pulled his soul back to Zuma Deng once more. This time, for the sake of his mother, Jun-ho agreed, and then the Jade Emperor took him to Ju Lian's team, making Jun-ho join them. Although they were extremely unwilling to take in this person who was half human, half soul, they had no choice. Very soon, they received their first mission, which was to save a girl with severe depression. It was a girl who had been knocked down by the crowd to the ground, and suddenly, an unseeing motorcycle came speeding toward her. To avoid hitting pedestrians, the rider accidentally fell, and the motorcycle, due to inertia, was about to hit the girl. At that moment, time suddenly stopped, making Jun-ho feel the strength of the Hell Messenger. Ju Lian then slowly walked toward the girl, twisted her finger, and with a snap of her fingers, time returned to normal. The motorcycle swerved to the side, and this girl became their mission target. The girl's name was Yoon-bi, who had been ostracized by her classmates since she was young and was bullied in various ways. After graduating, she chose to become a comic artist, and the theme of her latest comic was about bullying, which brought back memories of of her past. There was even a sound that had been torturing her all along, which was the sound of a ballpoint pen clicking, because the school bully once told her that whenever she heard the sound of a ballpoint pen, she had to smile. Indeed, during class, when the school bully clicked the pen, the teacher and the classmates all found her unlucky and gloomy. Her best friend told her to report it to the homeroom teacher, but the bully found out. The bully told Yoonbi that if she was willing, she would never be bullied again. And the hidden meaning of her words was to bully her best friend. At that moment, Yoonbi hesitated, but seeing her best friend being dragged away, she hurriedly rushed forward, begging them to let her best friend go. Perhaps it was fate's arrangement, but while working, she once again encountered the girl who had bullied her in the past. Nervousness and unease swept over her once more, and Julian also noticed there was some kind of connection between the two. So, holding the memory potion given by the Jade Emperor, Julian entered Eunbi's dreams while she was asleep, witnessing her tragic past. That night, they discovered Eunbi's depression level had reached 92%, meaning she had suicidal tendencies. As expected, they found Eunbi wanting to commit suicide on the rooftop, but Julian did not stop her. Instead, she kept provoking her with words, telling her to go ahead and die because only after experiencing death would she understand the beauty of the world. At this point, Eunbi's depression index had reached 100%. Standing on the balcony, she turned to Julian and said that she also wanted to live happily, but her smile was always seen as wrong by others. No matter how hard she had tried over the years, she still felt like a failure. After saying this, she jumped. During her fall, she recalled her entire life, the excitement of finding her first job, chatting happily with her colleagues, and even her unfulfilled dream of traveling. Suddenly, a hand caught her. It was Julian, who had come down to catch her. After landing, Julian told her that she must learn to fight back against life, that it was they who were wrong, not her, and that she should stay strong and not let anyone hurt her. After saying this, she went to find the bully. She forced the bully to apologize to Eunbi, but the bully, still stubborn, would never willingly agree. So Julian grabbed her hair, choked her by the neck, pinned her against the wall, and then threw her into a dream. In this dream, the bully experienced every bit of the bullying Eunbi had suffered. Perhaps this was the best revenge for such a person. When Julian learned that a classmate had suicidal tendencies as an underworld messenger, how could he ignore it? However, when the classmate opened the door, he did not recognize him because in the classmate's eyes, he looked completely different. It turned out that the moment he became an underworld messenger, he was given a new face and identity. The classmate thought he was some pervert harassing him and pushed him out the door. But he kept knocking on the door, and having no other choice, the classmate reported him to the police for trespassing. Back at the police station, Junho kept repeating his identity information, but when the police checked, the details did not match his appearance at all, warning him that stealing someone else's identity would result in punishment. At that moment, Representative Lim walked over and handed the police an ID card. Upon comparison, it was found to be the correct identification, and so Junho was released. After returning, he was very worried that his classmate would commit suicide because back in their school days, they were extremely close, even getting beaten up together. Junho asked Julian what they should do now. Julian told him that the reason the classmate wanted to commit suicide was because he had failed the civil service exam, and repeated attempts year after year had all ended in nothing, with the pressure suffocating him. At that moment, Junho remembered how his classmate, whenever exhausted, would always say how much he missed the sweets he ate with his father when he was 6 years old. Junho felt that fried chicken could reignite his friend's fighting spirit, but Representative Lim told him that as underworld messengers, they had no way of going back to the past, so this plan was immediately dismissed. Suddenly, Representative Lim thought of a good idea: to disguise themselves as church fathers and visit the classmate Nam Gong, saying that they had come to deliver blessings. Junho questioned them, asking why they were still preaching in this day and age. So, Junho used his phone to send Nam Gong a message with encouraging words. Nam Gong immediately rushed out the door upon reading it, and they followed closely behind, but while running, they lost him. Having no choice, they decided to split up to search. Soon, Junho found that Nam Gong had gone to Junho's hospital room. Seeing his old friend lying there, Nam Gong felt heartbroken, thinking that the message was not sent by Junho himself. Junho tried to walk over to comfort Nam Gong, but as he approached, the body in the hospital room suddenly began to convulse. Seeing this, Nam Gong hurriedly rushed into the hospital room. Outside, Junho was also in extreme pain, but fortunately, Representative Lim, who had come to the hospital to collect souls, pushed him away, moving him far from his true body, thus saving his life before leaving. After leaving the hospital, he found Nam Gong again and even took away his beer, but Nam Gong still saw the greasy uncle's face and asked him why this ghost kept following him around. Junho, just like before, inserted a straw into the beer, and seeing this uncle having the same habit as his friend, Nam Gong slowly lowered his guard and began to share his story. He studied day and night without rest, only for it all to end in nothing, which made him collapse mentally and even have thoughts of death. Seeing Nam Gong in such pain, Junho didn't know what to do. Finally, Nam Gong mentioned that he wanted to eat fried chicken. Seeing that Nam Gong's depression index had reached 85, Julian felt they could not wait any longer and asked Junho which year's fried chicken he was talking about. Junho told her it was from 20 years ago. So Julian Julian went to the Jade Emperor to borrow a time-traveling car. At first, the Jade Emperor strongly refused, but when he heard that Julian said it was to find fried chicken, for some unknown reason, he agreed. They went down to the underground garage, and seeing so many luxury cars, Junho was very excited. But in the end, Julian chose the most inconspicuous small red car. Good grief, this made Junho complain for a while. Afterward, they drove the car to travel back 20 years to find the fried chicken. Today was the boy's 6th birthday, and the father happily sent him to school, but the teacher told the father that it was time to pay the tuition fees. "Ah, I'm sorry. I will pay the fees," the father said, looking at his son with some difficulty. Just like that, the boy was taken off the school bus, and the boy cried out loud, insisting that he wanted to go to school. The father squatted down and told him that tonight he would buy him his favorite fried chicken, and only then did the boy show a smile. Afterward, he accompanied his father to sell socks on the street. Although the father called out vigorously, still, no one came to buy them. So the father took out a resume from the car and told the boy that he was going to make a phone call, and that if the city inspectors came, he should say that his father would be back soon. The boy obediently nodded. After seeing the father leave, only then did Julian and Junho dare to get out of the car. They had traveled 20 years back in time this time to save this little boy, because 20 years later, on this very day, he would have thoughts of death, and the only thing that might rekindle his spirit was the fried chicken his father bought him when he was 6. So they had no choice but to travel 20 years back to find the fried chicken to save his future self. The boy thought they were there to buy socks, so he introduced the prices to them, but unexpectedly, Junho directly called out the boy's name, Namgong. The boy instantly reacted and asked how he knew his name. I said, "You made money. What else do you want to do?" He hurriedly denied having said that because they came from the future and could not leave any traces here, or else they would be trapped here forever. Junho quickly changed the subject and asked where his favorite fried chicken shop was. As long as he could tell them which shop the fried chicken was from, they could complete their mission. But Namgong didn't know which shop it was from, only that his dad had bought it for him. On the other side, the father was calling the companies he had interviewed with earlier, but none of them wanted him. Later, they drove to the hospital, and Julian also saw Namgong's father worrying about his wife's medical expenses. Namgong was in the hospital room accompanying his seriously ill mother, and the mother felt sorry that she could not cook a meal for him today because it was his birthday. Namgong happily said that his father would buy her. The father walked in, and knowing that the medical bills were expensive, the mother lied, saying that she had recovered. The father held her hand and said, "Don't worry, the money issue has been settled," telling her to stay in the hospital and recover well for the sake of their son. As soon as he stepped out of the hospital, it started raining heavily. The father carried Namgong into the car and then began picking up the socks that had gotten wet in the rain. After finishing all this, he realized that Namgong was missing. Running to the other side of the car, he found Namgong picking up socks that had fallen into the rain, knowing that these socks could be sold to pay for his mother's treatment. When they returned to their rented room, the landlord, because they could not pay the rent, had moved all their belongings outside. The father felt completely devastated. Namgong saw his favorite comic book thrown out as well, and he burst into tears and heartbreak. His son's tuition fees, his wife's medical bills, all this pressure was weighing down on him, and perhaps this is the state of a middle-aged man. He squatted down and told Namgong that he would take him to the hospital where his mother was, and that he would go buy fried chicken and come back, not knowing that this was the first time the father had lied to him. Hearing that he was going to buy fried chicken, Junho hurriedly told Julian to follow the car closely. The father drove to the hospital, and Namgong ran toward the hospital alone. The father couldn't bear to look at his son, but for the sake of his son and to pay for his wife's treatment, he had no choice. Meanwhile, in the world 20 years later, Representative Lim discovered that Namgong's depression index was continuously rising. Suddenly, Namgong ran straight into the middle of the road, intending to end his life. But fortunately, the car stopped just in time. Representative Lim pulled him to the side, trying hard to persuade him not to do something foolish, but Namgong said, at that moment, the father suddenly accelerated, and they realized something was wrong. Julian quickly recalled the life insurance she had seen in the car earlier that day, and immediately understood what was happening. They drove the car to a line parallel with Namgong's father's car, and Junho shouted loudly for him to stop, but Namgong's father seemed completely unable to hear. Then they noticed a large truck approaching the intersection, and at that speed, it was clear that Namgong's father intended to cause a car accident. Julian told Junho to hold the car steady, then stepped on the accelerator, driving the car directly in front of Namgong's father's car. Seeing the danger coming closer at the critical moment, Julian had no choice but to use her ability to stop time, narrowly avoiding a disaster. Junho pulled him out of the car, but Namgong's father was still determined to die. Julian slapped him directly, telling him to wake up. Calming down, Namgong's father finally shared his story. His company had gone bankrupt, and his debts were piling up like a snowball. Only by dying could his wife and son receive the insurance money, so his wife could get treatment and his son could eat fried chicken. Julian told him, "Do you think that if you die, your wife and son will be able to live happily ever after?" But for him, this was the only way left. Because of the time constraints, they needed to find the fried chicken as soon as possible. So Junho stepped forward and told him that he would go buy the fried chicken now, asking him to think carefully about how to live on. Afterward, they searched all over the city for fried chicken, but all the shops had already closed. Suddenly, they saw a shop ahead that was still open, and it turned out to be Zhu Madeng Fried Chicken Shop. Maybe it was destined by fate. At that moment, Julian realized why the Jade Emperor had agreed so readily when she had mentioned going to the fried chicken shop earlier. But when they walked inside, they found it empty, with only prepared chicken ingredients left. Having no choice, they decided to do it themselves. Julian started chopping up the old hen, while Junho fried the chicken at the side, and after more than 10 minutes of busy preparation, 2 portions of fried chicken were finally ready. At this moment, Junho also found 2 sets of clothes, and despite Julian's unwillingness, they put on Donald Duck costumes, seriously celebrating Namgong's birthday. Junho then handed the portion of fried chicken to Namgong. At the same time, 20 years later, Namgong once again climbed to the rooftop to commit suicide, but fortunately, Representative Lim stopped him again. At that moment, Junho and Julian also returned from 20 years ago with the fried chicken. Namgong looked at the receipt on the fried chicken and recalled what his father had told him. Julian also told him that there are no hopeless situations in this world, only people who view their situations as hopeless. Namgong picked up the fried chicken and started eating it. At that moment, Representative Lim also noticed that he no longer wanted to commit suicide, but while eating, Namgong suddenly started to cry. Junho asked him why he was crying, and it turned out that Junho's fried chicken was so bad that it made him cry. Feeling resigned, Junho also took a bite himself. Julian, looking at this beast-like scum, punched him hard again. The man begged Julian to spare his life, but Julian told him, "You are already dead," and then gave him another heavy kick, telling him that he would be sent to the most terrifying hell, followed by another kick. It turned out that Julian was an underworld messenger, and he used to be a member of the soul ferrying team. Suddenly, he received a call from the team leader, Park Chung-ki, and then the two of them went to the rooftop. Park Chung-ki told him that there would be a netizen coming to the rooftop soon who would need to be ferried, but Park Chung-ki did not want to handle it, and Julian also refused. But then Park Chung-ki still refused. It turned out that a man had come to the rooftop to seek death. Park Chung-ki told him to wait for the man to die by jumping off and then take his soul back to the underworld. Just as the man was jumping off, a hand grabbed him. It was Julian, who couldn't bear to watch a living life end like that. While he was desperately trying to pull the man back up, Park Chung-ki told him to let go. At that moment, the man no longer wanted to die and hoped that Julian could save him. Dragon. Just like that, a person who could have been saved ended up dying right in front of his eyes. Julian really couldn't stand Park Chung-ki's way of handling things, and from then on, the two became sworn enemies. Julian then set up her own team, specifically responsible for saving people who were struggling on the edge of death, while Park Chung-ki continued to ferry the souls of those who had already died. One day, Junho's ancestor was being harassed by a female ghost, but in the eyes of outsiders, it only looked like he was foolishly blocking something alone. The female ghost explained her story. Her name was Nai Yi, and she had died in a car accident the previous day. Seeing her boyfriend grieving for her, she wanted to comfort him, but her hand passed right through his body. That was when people from the ferrying team came to take her soul. She wished to say goodbye to her boyfriend one last time, but Park Chung-ki completely ignored her. Just as she was being sent to Zuma Dung Company for judgment, she accidentally saw Julian and her team. When Nai Yi heard that they were a team specifically working to stop people from committing suicide, she felt that they could help bring peace to her heart, so she escaped when they were not paying attention. Kind-hearted Junho, upon hearing her story, brought her to Julian, but Julian only helped the living, while the dead were under the management of the ferrying team. To avoid unnecessary trouble, Julian was about to call Park Chung-ki when she suddenly received a mission indicating that a man's negative emotions were increasing rapidly. They also understood that the reason Nai Yi would not go to the underworld was because it turned out that Nai Yi's boyfriend could not accept her death and had taken a large number of sleeping pills to commit suicide, but he was fortunately saved. However, he still refused to eat or drink and kept seeking death. Nai Yi hoped to see him one last time, as it might ignite his will to live. Julian hesitated because this would mean becoming an enemy of the ferrying team. At that moment, members of the ferrying team arrived. Seeing them, Nai Yi was so frightened that she immediately ran away. They asked Julian if she had seen the female ghost on their tablet. Julian said she had seen her, but didn't know which direction she had run. Just as they were about to leave, team leader Park Chung-ki walked over. Julian did not want to hide it anymore and said that Nai Yi was closely connected to the person they were trying to save, so they could not hand her over for now. Park Chung-ki was very angry when he heard this and warned Julian that if she continued to obstruct their work, he would not show mercy. After saying this, he took his team to search for Nai Yi's soul. Meanwhile, Nai Yi arrived at the rented apartment where she and her boyfriend had lived together, and the ferrying team outside also tracked her location. The Jade Emperor told Julian that because she had used her powers in the mortal world to prevent a car accident that was supposed to happen, she had disrupted the order of the human world and would be punished with a 1-week ban on using her powers. The next day, they received a special mission to save a man who wanted to commit suicide. Julian disguised herself as a doctor and found the man, and, as expected, she found a bottle of sleeping pills in his pocket. The man said that he had caused his girlfriend's death, and this guilty feeling tormented him every day. It turned out that his girlfriend had died in a car accident, but Julian did not believe it was his fault. To find out the truth, they found the soul of the man's deceased girlfriend, but unexpectedly they encountered their sworn enemies who came to seize the ghost. Since Julian was banned from using her powers, they could only escape, leaving Representative Lim to hold them back. Fortunately, since Representative Lim had died early, his powers were stronger, and within a few rounds, he had defeated them. In the car, Julian asked the female ghost why her boyfriend felt that he had killed her. The female ghost explained the reason. Her boyfriend, Yu Jen, lost his mother at birth, and every year on his birthday, his father would hate him, feeling that he was the one who had killed his wife. Unable to accept his wife's death, the father also chose to commit suicide, leaving Yu Jen alone. Fortunately, his uncle appeared and took him home. Seeing the luxurious children's room, he couldn't believe that he would be living there from now on. During meals, the uncle's family of 3 would always give him extra food, making him feel the warmth of a family for the first time, and they even celebrated a birthday for him that he had never had before. Soon, Yu Jen grew up, but unfortunately, his uncle's family of 3 died in a car accident, leaving him an orphan once again. Looking at the family photo, he felt that he was the one who had caused their deaths. He picked up a knife, preparing to end his own life, when he suddenly heard a song playing on the radio. The lyrics of the song felt as if they were written just for him, and the song healed him, making him give up the thought of suicide. Because of this, he embarked on the path of music. Not long after, he met the girl he liked, who was the female ghost Na Yi, who had died. The two quickly fell in love. That day, the two of them were driving on the road when, due to the driver in front dozing off, they got into a car accident. Just like that, Na Yi died, and he survived. Na Yi's parents blamed him, saying he had killed their daughter. The repeated pain of losing his loved ones made him feel like he was an ominous person. At this moment, Julian and the others brought Na Yi's soul to the hospital, but discovered that Yu Jen was not in the hospital room. Just as they went to look for Yu Jen, Park Chung-ki from the ferrying team appeared. Without her powers, Julian could only take them and flee, but no matter how they tried, they could not escape Park Chung-ki's grasp. After they managed to get out of the hospital, they discovered that Na Yi's soul was missing. At this moment, Na Yi had already been cornered by Park Chung-ki, and just as he was about to take Na Yi to the underworld, Representative Lim appeared. To buy time for Julian, he had no choice but to confront Park Chung-ki. But how could he be a match for Park Chung-ki? Within a few rounds, he was beaten without the ability to fight back. Just then, Julian appeared. In order to save Yu Jen's life, she had no choice but to sign a 2-hour contract with Park Chung-ki. Once this contract was signed, not even the Jade Emperor could interfere, meaning that within these 2 hours, she had to follow Park Chung-ki's orders, or she would be reduced to ashes. At this moment, Yu Jen was already standing on the hospital's high platform. Fortunately, Julian appeared, but no matter how she tried to persuade him, he still believed that he had killed his girlfriend. At this moment, Julian revealed the truth. During the car accident, Na Yi had deliberately turned the steering wheel toward her side, which was why he had survived. After learning this, he felt that he was not worthy of Na Yi's sacrifice and leapt off the platform. Fortunately, Julian caught him in time. To give him the will to live, Julian, risking turning to ashes, let Yu Jen meet Na Yi. Na Yi told him that her death had nothing to do with him and asked him to live well for her. With Na Yi's comforting words, Yu Jen finally let go of the knot in his heart. At this moment, Julian also realized that Yu Jen no longer wanted to die, but due to using her powers during the ban period, she collapsed from weakness. A few days later, Yu Jen stopped giving up on himself and, carrying Na Yi's love and hope, sang out the beauty of the human world. This old man was going to die tomorrow, but he chose to commit suicide today. At the same time, the Jade Emperor also received the news of the old man's suicide. Since the old man was a national hero in his youth, he instructed Julian to investigate the reason for the old man's suicide and to help him fulfill his last wish. Due to time being tight, they followed the address provided by Zuma Dung to the old man's house, only to find the room empty. Seeing the messy room, they decided to help the old man tidy it up, as a clean room could improve one's mood. Having found no broom and unwilling to go buy one, the newcomer Junho was naturally made to run the errand. When Junho came out of the small shop after buying the items, an old man collecting scrap passed by. Junho looked at the woman with disdain, wondering how she could teach her child this way. Kind-hearted Junho quickly stepped forward, wanting to help the old man push the cart, but the old man refused. At that moment, he suddenly realized that this was the elderly man they were looking for who wanted to commit suicide. Just like that, Junho took the initiative to help the old man pull the cart and soon discovered that the place where the old man lived had already been marked for demolition. Curiously, he asked why he did not leave, and the old man said that he had lived there all his life and, having developed feelings for the place, did not want to move. Suddenly, a few thugs appeared at the intersection, urging the old man to move quickly, even laying hands on him. Junho could not stand seeing them bully the old man like this and fought with them. When they returned, Junho was beaten black and blue. Julian quickly guessed what had happened. The old man asked who they were, feeling very surprised and a bit wary of Junho. At this moment, Representative Lim told him once again that he was going to die tomorrow. Upon hearing this, the old man's expression became a bit panicked. It turned out that the old man, after years of hard labor, had developed an acute illness, something he himself did not even know. Julian followed the old man into his room, asking if there was anything he wanted to do, and they could help him achieve it. At this moment, the old man revealed the reason why he wanted to commit suicide. He had seen a neighbor pass away, and the body was only discovered after it had decomposed, so he wanted to find a place to hide and quietly leave this world. Julian asked him, "On your last day, don't you want to spend it meaningfully?" The old man said that he just wanted to live his last day as he usually did. So they accompanied the old man to collect scrap, only to find that someone was driving around to snatch scraps from them. After dozens of minutes, the old man finally saw many empty wine bottles and cardboard boxes and said that he was lucky to have found so much on his last day, then began to pick up the scraps. They also squatted down to help him, but the old man told them not to dirty their hands. Julian replied, "Trash. Trash may be dirty, but some people are even dirtier than trash." Very soon, they had filled an entire cart and brought it to the recycling station to sell. However, the stingy boss deliberately gave the old man less money. Julian was just about to step forward to settle the score, but was stopped by the old man, who took out some money from his pocket and handed it to the boss. It turned out that he knew the boss's family was also struggling, so on his last day, he wanted to help him out. After that, they pushed the cart back. As evening approached, a few of them sat under a large tree. The old man said he regretted a decision he had made in the past. Otherwise, he would not have remained unmarried for his whole life. It turned out that in 1950, he was preparing to go to the battlefield to protect his country. As the saying goes, when a son travels 1,000 miles, a mother worries. His mother, afraid he would get hurt, did not want him to go, but he said that protecting the country was the responsibility of the young. Before leaving, he knelt before his mother in farewell. That departure changed the course of his life forever. The war was far crueler than he had imagined, with the air filled with the stench of corpses and dust. Watching his comrades fall one by one beside him made it impossible for him to form feelings for anyone, until one day he met a comrade named Dong Chi. The two opened up to each other, chatting about their hometowns. Yong Chuan took out a photo with his mother, saying that once the war was over, he would go home to see her. Dong Chi said he needed to eat more and grow taller before going to see his mother. Suddenly, the sky roared and explosions erupted nearby, and the soldiers quickly engaged in life and death battles. The artillery was merciless, and Dong Chi's leg was blown off. Seeing this, Yong Chuan shouted loudly for a medic. When the battle ended, he hurried to look for Dong Chi. It was a brutal battle, but finally, in the corridor, he saw Dong Chi, who had lost a leg. He shouted his name, but the first words Dong Chi said upon waking were Yong Chuan. Yong Chuan did not understand, wondering if a life could not compare to a leg. When the war ended, he returned to his hometown, only to find that his mother had already passed away, and their house had been demolished by the government. In the end, he did not get to see his mother one last time. He wanted to continue his studies, but his hands would tremble uncontrollably, and even while sleeping at night, screams from the battlefield echoed in his mind. He had no choice but to give up on studying and chose to do manual labor instead. But whenever he heard the sound of nails being hammered, scenes of gunfire would flash in his mind, plunging him into despair. These after effects from the battlefield completely disrupted his normal life. To survive, he was forced to pick up scraps on the streets. Seeing others with their partners while his mind and body were unstable, he gave up on the idea of marriage. Just like that, he spent his whole life collecting scraps. After hearing the old man's story, they all felt heartbroken for his life. At that moment, the old man suddenly stood up, saying he wanted to take a walk. The old man sat on the steps, and Julian came out to sit beside him, asking what he was thinking. The old man said that if he had chosen not to join the army back then, he probably would have lived a happy life, but now all that was left was regret and a humble existence. Hearing the old man's words, Julian said there was something she wanted to show him. With a snap of her fingers, she took the old man to the highest point in Seoul, wanting him to see the country he had protected, and telling him that if it weren't for his sacrifices, the people would not have what they have today. Looking at the bustling night view of Seoul, the old man felt pride once again. When they returned to the steps, the old man was very grateful to Julian for letting him, on the last day of his life, understand that his sacrifices had been worthwhile. Just as the two were preparing to return, Junho came hopping over, saying that he had uploaded the old man's search for Dong Chi online, and it had gained a lot of attention from netizens. Very quickly, they had found Dong Chi. Seeing that Dong Chi's family was living happily, the old man felt very happy. Junho told the old man that Dong Chi had also been looking for him to thank him for saving his life back then. To let the old man leave with dignity, Julian asked Park Chung-ki to guide the old man with the highest honors. At the same time, a few thugs came to find the old man again. Just as they were about to act, Julian returned from Zumadung and told Junho to take the old man inside first while she would deal with them herself. After saying this, Julian put on the death gloves. They even teased her, asking how old she was. 420 years old. At that moment, the old man's illness worsened again, and he worried whether Julian and the others would be in danger outside. Representative Lim told him, the ones in danger are those thugs outside. Outside, Julian was taking them down like playing with children, knocking one out with each move, and within less than a minute, she had KO'd all of them. The thugs were so scared they wet their pants as they ran away. Inside, the old man was already so weak that he could no longer speak, although they had long known that his life was nearing its end. At this moment, Junho still felt an immense sorrow. He went outside in tears to get some air. Julian told him, sort out your thoughts before coming back in. Don't leave yourself with regrets. After saying that, she walked back inside. Just then, Park Chung-ki walked over with a ridiculously cool swagger. Seeing Junho's pitiful state, he directly mocked him, saying, someone who can't even even face the final moment. What can you even do? After saying this, he walked inside, leaving Junho standing there, looking aggrieved. Park Chung-ki came to the old man's side, telling him that they had met during the war. It turned out that back during the war, Park Chung-ki had been ferrying souls and had seen the old man's bravery, so this time he wanted to accompany him through his final moment. At that moment, outside the door, hundreds of underworld messengers had gathered to send him off, and even the Jade Emperor personally came to welcome him. The Jade Emperor entered the room, looking at the old man's kindly face, thanking him for having protected countless lives, and said that now all they could do was quietly send him off. After he finished speaking, the old man passed away peacefully. The old man's soul came outside and saw so many people there to send him off. The Jade Emperor said that without him, Zuma Dung would not exist as it did today. Then, in the silence of everyone's mourning, the head of the ferrying team took the old man's soul and led him away from the human world. When he arrived at Zuma Dung, the old man regained his youthful appearance and met the soul of his mother, making up for the regret he had held for over 40 years. This embrace was something he had waited for half his life. A 200-pound girl, in order to become thin, forced herself to vomit every day for weight loss. Just like that, she had been doing it for more than 10 years, going from 200 pounds down to 70 pounds, but she was still not satisfied because she wanted to become as thin as a lightning bolt. At night, when she was unbearably hungry, she secretly ate a bite of bread, and the next second, she ran to the bathroom to force it back out. The reason she kept forcing herself to lose weight was that she saw herself like this in the mirror, which made her develop thoughts of ending her life. At the same time, Zuma Dung also received the news that the girl wanted to commit suicide. Because the King of Hell would often message the Jade Emperor complaining that the underworld was too crowded, the Jade Emperor simply set up a crisis group specifically to save people who wanted to commit suicide to help reduce the underworld's population. This time, the Jade Emperor dispatched Julian to save the girl. So they disguised themselves and went to the girl's company to apply for jobs. In the end, under the threat and intimidation of the three of them, they successfully entered the company. But on the first day of work, a problem occurred in the company. It was this chubby girl who had written the exhibition event time wrong. The leader harshly scolded her, saying that all she knew was how to eat and that she was as fat as a pig and couldn't do anything right. Yina decided to help the chubby girl and asked about the time, learning that there was less than an hour left before the event. So she prepared to go with the chubby girl to help, and Julian's group of three decided to follow to get close to Yina. When they arrived at the event, the makeup artist said that they were short of a model. The chubby girl hesitated and said, "Then let me do it." The makeup artist took one look at her figure and immediately refused, saying that no matter what, it was still a model for display. Suddenly, the artist turned their gaze toward Julian, but afterward requested Yina to treat them to a meal as thanks. Yina straightforwardly agreed. At the exhibition, Julian already possessed a peerless beauty. Julian, with her peerless beauty, helped the event end perfectly. Afterwards, they went to a restaurant to eat. Julian noticed that although Yina kept saying the food was very delicious and kept cutting the steak with her knife, when she brought the fork to her mouth, she would put it back down again, and in the end, she only ate a small piece of mushroom. After returning, they couldn't figure out why she, being so thin, still wanted to lose weight. The next day at work, the chubby girl handed Yina some snacks, and they watched Yina's reaction. But when Yina turned around, she saw the chubby girl as her past self, instantly knocking the snacks to the ground and saying many harsh words, all of which Julian saw. During her break, Yina went alone to a cafe and overheard others talking about her, and these voices once again pushed her to the brink of collapse. The three who had been following her quickly noticed her depression index reaching 95. That night, the company organized a dinner gathering. The leader noticed that she wasn't eating or drinking and said that Julian's figure was the ideal body that everyone liked. Junho directly stuffed vegetables into Yina's mouth to shut her up. But upon hearing those words, Yina started hallucinating again, and in her breakdown, she left her bag behind and ran off. The three quickly chased after her, but she was nowhere to be found. Representative Lim took out his phone and saw that her depression index had reached 97, meaning that she would commit suicide that night. They had no choice but to split up to search for her. Junho then spotted Yina, but by the time he ran over, she had already taken a taxi and left. Soon, Yina arrived home, walked up to the gas cylinder she had prepared long ago, and slowly turned on the valve. At that moment, Junho, using the address on her ID card, arrived at her doorstep. Fortunately, he had found the key in her bag, opened the door, and went in, turning off the gas valve, and saw Yina collapsed on the floor. Junho had no choice but to carry her to the hospital, and fortunately, they arrived in time, and Yina regained consciousness. The first thing she said was, Junho asked her why she wanted to commit suicide. Slowly, Yina explained the reason. She had been overweight since childhood, and her classmates mocked her, saying she smelled like a pig, and no one wanted to play with her. Unable to bear the pressure, she had wanted to end her life, but because she was overweight, she was unable to do so, so she began forcing herself to vomit, and over time, she became extremely thin. Because of the long-term vomiting, she developed anorexia, and whenever she ate something, she would remember the humiliation she had suffered, forcing her to vomit it out again, pushing her to the edge of collapse. After hearing her story, Junho went outside to find Julian for help, but Julian told him that he needed to complete the this task alone. At first, he didn't believe in himself, but after hearing Julian say, "Just be yourself," he decided to give it a try. He went to Yina's hospital bedside and told her about his sister's story. It turned out that Junho's sister had gained more than 30 pounds due to studying for school, and when she went to buy clothes, the shop owner told her there was nothing in her size, and even her boyfriend chose to break up with her, while people around her laughed at her. Later, she even stopped eating the meals prepared by their mother. Their mother told her, "Why care about what others think? Even if you are perfect, there will always be people who will find faults and slander you." These words pulled his sister out of the abyss completely. Junho told Yina that those who hurt her built a prison, imprisoning her past self within it, and that the key was in her own hands. Junho held Yina's hand and told her, "Your body doesn't belong to others. It belongs to you, and you must cherish it." After listening to Junho, Yina seemed to understand something, and she picked up the key in her heart and freed her past self. Not long after, she was happily eating cake and drinking milk tea with a chubby girl, which made her very happy. It is said that when a dog is about to die, it will choose to leave home to find a place to wait for death to arrive. At the same time, Julian received news that someone wanted to commit suicide, and the index had reached 99, the highest they had ever encountered. Due to the urgency, they hurried to the specified location. Suddenly, Junho saw a girl walking into the middle of the road. Looking closely, it turned out to be his sister, and looking back, he saw the cars not stopping. To save his sister, he directly jumped over the barrier, and fortunately, Julian and Representative Lim used their abilities to save them. At that moment, they discovered that the girl was holding a dog in her arms, and Junho then realized that his sister wasn't trying to commit suicide, but was trying to save the dog. Afterwards, his sister handed the dog over to Julian and then returned to work. Julian told them that the one wanting to commit suicide this time was not a human, but this little dog. They didn't expect that even a dog could want to commit suicide. Junho took out his phone to check the map, and it indeed showed the location as being exactly where the dog was. They then took the dog to a cafe, and all of them expressed that it was the first time they had seen a dog wanting to commit suicide. To find out the reason why, they decided they needed to find the dog's owner, so they went to nearby pet shops to check using the tag on the dog's collar, but they got no results. Afterwards, they took the dog to a veterinary clinic for a checkup, and the vet told them that the dog was already 13 years old and did not have much time left, asking them to be mentally prepared. Junho was very angry, feeling that the owner had abandoned the dog, but the dog seemed to understand what they were saying and started barking furiously at Junho. Unable to find any clues about the dog, they had no way to save it, so Julian told them. Junho went to the Underworld's video editing department. It turned out that no matter if it's a human or an animal, once they are close to death, the Underworld's video editing team would edit a highlight reel of their life in advance, which becomes their final gift. Junho opened the video and saw that the little dog had been abandoned and badly injured, but was taken in by a boy named Kim Zoon, who gave him the name Dudu. Dudu really liked Kim Zoon, and Kim Zoon treated him like a little brother, playing with him and taking walks together. One day, Kim Zoon got into a car accident because of Dudu and was left with a long scar on his arm. Dudu seemed to feel very sorry. Not long after, Kim Zoon grew up, but Dudu remained the same size. To cover the childhood scar, Kim Zoon got a tattoo on his arm. In the days that followed, they were very happy, often sitting together on a bench watching the sunset, until one day, Dudu developed a tumor and needed surgery. But because he was already 13 years old, there was a high risk of complications during the operation. Kim Zoon, unable to decide, discussed it with his family, but Dudu overheard the conversation and understood his situation. Not wanting to cause them trouble, he chose to run away from home. Junho nearly teared up seeing this and called Julian, asking her to search online for the tattoo's owner. Sure enough, Representative Lim found a post online where Kim Zoon was searching for Dudu. Meanwhile, Kim Zoon was deeply depressed because of Dudu's disappearance and couldn't focus at work. After coming home from work and seeing old videos of Dudu, he couldn't help but cry. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Julian. After confirming the meeting location, Kim Zoon was so anxious to see Dudu that he ran out the door without even wearing a coat. At the cafe, Julian asked him why Dudu would run away and want to end his life. At first, Kim Zoon didn't believe it, but then suddenly remembered something. That day, during the call, he had told his mother that if Dudu died in front of him, he wouldn't be able to keep living either. Those words had been overheard by Dudu outside the door, so to make sure his owner would live well, Dudu chose to run away and end his life himself. Kim Zoon regretted saying that because he had long regarded Dudu as his family. Julian then went next door and brought Dudu to Kim Zoon, but seeing him, Dudu still hesitated to approach. Kim Zoon spoke of how much he missed him and told Dudu that without him these past days, he had been truly lonely. Dudu seemed to understand his heart and slowly walked toward him. Kim Zoon hugged Dudu tightly in his arms. Not long after they sat down, the ferrying team's messenger came to take Dudu's soul. Representative Lim told him to wait another hour. At first, the messenger didn't agree, but under the threats and intimidation of the two, he finally agreed. Julian told Kim Zoon that time was short and to send Dudu off well. Junho, worried Dudu might be cold, took out a scarf for him. Representative Lim also took off his own coat and put it on Kim Zoon. Then Then, Kim Zoon carried Dudu out of the cafe and brought him to the park they had once visited. Holding Dudu, Kim Zoon talked about their memories and told him he would live well, not to worry about him, and thanked him for accompanying him for so many years, bringing him so much happiness. Watching Dudu slowly close his eyes, the pain in his heart made it hard for Kim Zoon to face reality, but Dudu could no longer hear his voice. Just like that, Dudu left the human world carrying his longing. The underworld messenger then brought Dudu's soul before Julian and the others. Seeing Dudu so quiet, Representative Lim told him that there would be many good friends on the other side and that Kim Zoon would think of him while living well. 50 years later, Dudu still did not want to reincarnate because he had always been waiting for Kim Zoon to come with him. The Jade Emperor told him that in his next life, he would be reborn as a human. Just then, a man with a tattoo on his arm walked in. Seeing him, Dudu immediately ran toward him. It turned out that 50 years later, Kim Zoon had also passed away. Seeing how close they were, even the Jade Emperor showed a smile. A girl was raped, but her father said it was her fault, and even her beloved older brother blamed her, asking why she wore such tight clothes. She didn't understand why her whole family blamed her. That night, on her way home, she happened to run into her brother. They were also eating at the same restaurant that day. Because she was scared, she wanted her brother to go home with her, but her brother directly refused. Having no choice, she could only walk back alone. Suddenly, a hand landed on her shoulder, and she thought it was her brother. But when she turned around, she saw it was a stranger. The man threatened her, saying that if she didn't want to die, she should keep quiet. At that moment, she was terrified. Taking advantage of the moment when the man was not paying attention, she pushed him away and started running. The man immediately chased after her, and eventually the girl was caught. The man slapped her hard and then dragged her into a secluded alley. Meanwhile, her brother was still sending her messages asking if she had managed to get a taxi, but there was no reply, and he thought she had returned home and fallen asleep. At this moment, the girl was dragged into the alley, and the man kept beating her, punching and kicking her as she begged for mercy. She was then dragged into a bathroom and was assaulted. She was on the verge of collapse, but the man did not stop there. He told her that if she wanted to live, she should close her eyes and count to 1,000 before coming out. The girl nodded, and after the man left the bathroom, she began counting. She kept counting until she reached 683, then noticed that it was silent outside. She got up, ready to escape, but as soon as she opened the door, she saw the man still standing outside. Just like that, the girl was beaten again. The next day, her brother returned home and found that his sister had not come back. Taking out his phone, he realized that the messages he had sent her the night before had not been answered, and he thought she had stayed at a friend's house. After he finished showering, he found their father standing in the room, who, without saying a word, slapped him hard, questioning him about where he was when his sister was attacked. It was only then that he found out his sister had been assaulted the previous night. He went to the hospital to see her and asked who had done it. The sister told her brother not to call the police. She didn't want anyone to know. The brother shouted at her, asking why she hadn't returned home earlier. The sister also broke down, and when the brother grabbed her hand, she saw him as the man who had assaulted her, plunging her back into fear once again. In the end, the girl's parents took the man to court, but the man's family was wealthy and influential, and he was also a top medical student, so he was only sentenced to 2 years with a suspended sentence. This pushed the girl back into despair because the man had warned her that if she chose to call the police, she would face endless revenge. The incident quickly spread online, and the comments were all blaming her, saying that she was living an indecent life, and that was why she had been targeted. The overwhelming flood of hateful messages in the comments section, those hateful comments kept echoing in her mind. Her brother, unwilling to accept the court's verdict, held up a sign to seek justice for his sister. When the girl found out, she went to her brother and questioned him, asking if he wanted the whole world to know, saying, "What difference is there between me and that man now?" She tore open her heart again and again, saying harsh words and telling her brother to go die. Realizing his mistake, her brother softly said, "I'm sorry," before walking out of the room alone. Meanwhile, Julian's side received a notification that the girl was about to commit suicide. Strangely, her brother also wanted to commit suicide. Due to the urgency, they split into 2 teams. Julian arrived at the hospital, but found the girl wasn't there. Calling Junho, she learned the girl's brother also wasn't at the courthouse as expected, and they guessed they were likely at home. At that moment, the girl's suicide index had reached over 90. Just then, the girl picked up a knife, ready to end her life, when Julian and the others arrived, stopping her just in time. At the same time, Junho discovered the girl's brother's suicide index had reached 94. Julian told him and Representative Lim to find the brother while she handled the situation there. After they left, Julian slowly walked forward. It turned out the girl didn't actually want to die. The reason she wanted to commit suicide was that the family around her not only didn't understand her, but also blamed her, even saying it was her fault for going out that day. That was why she wanted to die. Upon learning this, Julian showed her the scars from her own suicide attempt, but realized it was almost too late. Julian told her, "You are the victim. Don't be afraid. The one who should be afraid is the abuser. No one has the right to blame you, not even yourself, so you must live." The girl let go of the knife and hugged Julian tightly. Sometimes when people want to commit suicide, they only need a few caring words, but often no one says them. Meanwhile, the abuser was watching the news about what he had caused, laughing arrogantly. At this moment, Representative Lim used his powers to arrive at the man's house. He hated people like this the most because his own mother had died after being violated. Seeing Lim, the man tried to call someone for help, but Lim grabbed the phone and punched him directly. The girl's brother also arrived, intending to kill the man and then take his own life. Lim told him, "Don't stain your hands with blood, let me kill him." Junho also arrived and froze when he opened the door. Seeing Lim punching the man's face repeatedly, clearly about to beat him to death. Seeing this, the girl's brother quickly pushed Junho back outside to stop him from interfering, wanting Lim to kill the man. Junho understood his thoughts and told him, "Disappearing is not the solution. Your sister is in pain now, and at this moment you should stay by her side. Don't seek revenge alone." Only then did the brother realize his mistake. At this point, the man could no longer stand up from the beating, and just as Lim was about to deal the final blow, Junho stopped him, reminding him that underworld messengers could not interfere in human affairs. Suddenly, Julian appeared and slapped Lim, telling him to calm down. After Lim left, Julian kicked the man hard, cursing him so that he would never have descendants again. In court, Julian transformed into a prosecutor, seeking justice for the girl and sentencing the man to 20 years in prison. After the trial ended, while escorting the man to prison, a figure suddenly appeared, scaring the driver into stopping the vehicle. When they got out to check, there was no one, so they decided to look ahead. At that moment, the car's interior lights flickered, and the death god Park Chung-ki appeared. It turned out the man would die of heart failure in 10 minutes, but for someone as vile as him, that death was too easy. So Park Chung-ki used hellfire to ignite the entire vehicle, making him experience the most painful death in the world. The flames grew larger and larger, and with the man's final scream, this scum permanently left the world. Park Chung-ki, with a ridiculously cool swagger, walked away. And with that, this story come an end.